Testing. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie. For those of you who weren't on our earlier demos, I am the executive director at Massaro Community Farm on the border of Woodbridge and Ansonia, and we're an organic vegetable farm. And I hope you've all been enjoying your summer and fall produce from our seasonal shares at the farm. This is going to be our last demo of the year, which I'm recording for you this evening. And I'm going to be making two things with common ingredients that will hopefully make a meal for you and your family for the night. I am making a frittata, which you can also do as a quiche using some of our vegetables. And then I'm also going to do a salad with some grains added to make it a little bit heartier. This time of year, local farms are getting lots of root crops, winter squash, which is what we used last time, and greens, right? Hardy greens, things like kale, chard, spinach, some of the hardier and spicier lettuce greens. Arugula is a popular one and is able to withstand frost. Lots of folks are afraid to use chard because their experience with it is that it is very bitter. But if you get it after we have a few cold nights, what happens is the cold temperatures actually convert the starch to sugar in pretty much anything that's still in the ground. So that counts for your root vegetables and any of your greens, which is why folks from the South who grow collards always say, don't pick them until after the first frost. We actually grow lots of different colors of chard. You can see that this is like a variety mix here of like yellow, green, and red. It's really beautiful. And it's not bitter, so you can use it raw just the way it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook some radishes and some chard to put in my frittata. And then I'm going to cut some additional radishes and carrot and kohlrabi, which I'll talk about in a second. And we're going to add that to our salad. So over here, I've already got going. I've got my radishes sauteing the pan. They've been in there a couple of minutes. A lot of folks, and then I'm going to add my chard right now. So a lot of folks are a little bit nervous or stay away from radishes. It's one of the things we grow a lot of in spring and fall at the farm. Number one, it's very quick to develop, so it grows very fast. It tolerates not great conditions in the spring and the fall. So low light, colder soil temperatures, not lots of water, but it generally is a very easy thing to grow. Some folks might not like radish because they think that gives them indigestion raw. But the nice thing about radishes is that you can cook them. So when I have lots of them, and we often have lots of extra left behind at the farm from people who had too many and they're just not quite sure what to do with them all, is I just add them to whatever food I'm cooking. So I find that a quiche or a frittata, which I'm going to make tonight, not unlike a chili or a tomato sauce or a vegetable soup, is an easy way to use up the things you might not like on their own for their individual flavor profile, but together, combined with other things, they add their own quality. And then you're also getting all of those other trace mineral and elements that come, especially from root crops, right? That are coming out of the ground this time of year. So the other thing about radishes is they're high in vitamin C. They have lots of fiber. And as a root crop, they're drawing up a lot of minerals from the organic soil. So you're getting that, when you eat them. Same thing goes for stems, right? I mean, sometimes stems are too tough and chewy. But in this product, I'm going to cut at least half of my chard stems because they tend to be a little bit more tender than my kale stems. And I'm going to add them to the pan with just a little bit of water. And the water will kind of steam the leaves. And I'm just gonna let that cook until the leaves, my apologies, until the leaves are soft enough so that when I put them in my egg mixture, that they're basically pre-cooked. I love this as a weeknight meal because it's super easy. I can do a 5-minute saute of whatever vegetables I want to throw in, even if they're not cooked all the way, you're par cooking them. I put them in my quiche dish, which I have an oven safe dish, or sometimes I even do it right in the pan, which I'm going to use a skillet tonight. Have my oven preheated. I throw it in for 30 minutes and then that's it. You pull it out and it's done. 2 other things I've done to get ready for you this evening. So as I just mentioned, I do have my oven preheated to 375. And the other thing I like to do is, because we are getting a lot of leafy greens this time of year from the farm, sometimes it's very hard for me to eat a salad when it's cold outside. But if I can make some modifications to it, and sometimes I even leave my vegetables out from the morning to lunchtime or from lunchtime to later in the day so that they're at room temperature when I go to eat them. But adding something like either a bean to your salad, which we might have done this earlier in the season, or adding a grain. So today I've actually pre-cooked this whole grain. It is it is wheat berry. So this is the berry of the wheat, which is essentially when you're getting wheat bread or any other product made from wheat, you are essentially getting the center part of this seed. And this has the outside or the endosperm still intact. So it means it is just loaded with fiber and nutrients. And it's also really inexpensive. So I got a bag of it that was probably about 8 ounces or so at Edge of the Woods. It was under $2 and I've gotten 4 different meals out of it. So it stretches a long way. It's really filling. It has a nice chewy texture to it. So if you like brown rice or anything like that, it's similar and even more crunchy than that. So I've cooked a cup of this. I have more than I need. I'm going to add a cup to the salad in a little bit. So these are almost ready. I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of salt and pepper, even though I'm going to season my eggs as well. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, pepper, and some granulated garlic to this because I didn't have any bulk garlic with me, just to give the vegetables a little bit of extra flavor before we add them to the eggs. You can see me over here. You don't like garlic, don't add garlic. Another thing I like to use when I'm making a quiche frittata is paprika. It seems to go really well with eggs. And then over here on the side, I actually have, I dried some herbs at the end of the summer and put them in salt in a jar. So I have some rosemary and sage and some salt. It smells really lovely. I'm gonna add that. Probably put some of that on my eggs as well. Don't have to add cheese to your quiche or frittata, but husband's a cheese lover. I've got about 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese there. Sometimes if you don't have anything else, you can just sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan on top. So we have a variety of greens. While this is cooking, I have a variety of greens here tonight. In addition to the chard, which I showed you, I also have escarole. So it looks like a giant head of lettuce, but the nice thing about escarole is it's hardier, so it grows in the colder temperatures over the winter, and it's very flexible. So you might think of, some of you might have heard of, some people add escarole to minestrone soup, or there's a white bean and escarole soup that is kind of popular in certain cultures. But the nice thing about escarole, it's very mild in flavor. You can eat it raw or cooked. So it's very versatile. And when you go into the supermarket and the lettuces look really wilted and nasty, this is a great alternative during the colder months. And then also I mentioned earlier, I've got about half a little bunch here of some arugula left. Again, the bigger the leaves of this get, it can get quite strong and peppery, but otherwise arugula has a really nice nutty flavor. So for my salad base, I'm actually going to use, and I've already rinsed these, I'm going to use a mixture of the arugula and the escarole. This stuff is just about ready. And what I want to do is get this in the oven so that while I'm putting my salad together, my quiche is cooking. I'm gonna turn that off. I'm gonna mix up my eggs here. I've got about 8 or 9 eggs. We're really lucky. We have chickens in the backyard, which, by the way, I'm not sure about the surrounding towns, but in New Haven, you can have up to 4 backyard chickens without a rooster. The feed is pretty inexpensive, and I will say it's really nice to have eggs year round. If you're not familiar with making a quiche or a frittata, the simple steps I follow to assemble these is usually to have your oven safe dish. I'm actually gonna grab a different one. I use a pie plate, by the way, but I have this round like fruit tart plate, which I love, and it's perfect. I use it all the time, so I know exactly how much contents it will hold. Trying to get ready for you all before we started. Change of plans. Give that a quick spray. So as I was saying, what I like to do when you're assembling a quiche or frittata, you're doing something with a crust. Obviously, crust goes in first. You do not have to pre-bake it. But I'm going to put the contents in first. So whatever you're including, whether that's ham, some people like to use a meat or a bacon. Some people even put sausage or potatoes. I'm going to put my vegetables. I'm going to put the eggs, and then I'm going to put some seasoning and cheese on top, right? Oftentimes if you mix in the cheese, it gets really incorporated and you might lose the flavor of it. That's what I find. All right, so this is ready. Let me go ahead and add this. Definitely want to get this in the oven so I can at least show it to you near done, if not all the way done, before we're done. Eggs all ready. More of the seasoned salts. Paprika. This one tends to come out really fast, so I have to be careful with it. And my cheese. Sometimes if it's the middle of summer and I have tomatoes, I also do this in the summer, by the way. And if I have tomatoes, I'll slice the tomatoes and put them on top, and man, does that look gorgeous when it comes out of the oven. I didn't quite put all that cheese in. Set my timer for 30 minutes. We're good. All right, so I was talking about these greens that I have, and then I just got a mixture of other things here. Salad doesn't need to be lettuce, tomato, and cucumbers, right? Like, get a little bit creative. Sometimes in the wintertime, I'll do a can of a certain type. I'll do a bed of greens and some beans and raisins. And I know that sounds odd. The first time I tried it 10 years ago, it seemed really odd to me. But honestly, with a little vinaigrette dressing, it's really nice. Put some nuts on it and you've got a whole salad. Another thing that's popular right now that ripens in the fall is pomegranate, right? Pomegranate is a superfood. It is just loaded with vitamins for you. It's beautiful. You have to not mind eating the seeds. And you only need a little bit. You can see I've kind of been chipping away at this one. Sometimes I put some in my oatmeal in the morning. You can even throw that on there for some added color. But the other thing I wanted to talk to while I'm cutting my arugula and escarole is about this thing here, which I'm going to cut in a moment. And this is kohlrabi. So kohlrabi is another root crop. So this grows below ground. The top is very similar, almost looks exactly like collard greens. You can eat the entire thing. This one's been trimmed. And I'll show it to you in a second when I cut it open, but this originates in the Middle East, but again, this is one of those things that we grow in the fall. It is slow growing, but it tolerates our New England climate extremely well. And oh, I just trimmed that arugula and it's so nutty and wonderful. Add a little bit of this. Sorry, kohlrabi can also be used raw or cooked. So when you cut it, it's got this consistency that is very crunchy. The density of it, it's very hard. The density of it is like a radish, but even harder. But it's almost got a very neutral flavor, so it's not peppery or anything like that. And it's also great if you are a diabetic and you need to eat a low carb diet. You can use kohlrabi in place of potato. They're not always easy to find in the supermarkets, believe it or not, but you can find them. Big Y is more likely to carry them because they're getting more produce from local farmers. So I've got about 3 cups of salad greens in there. I'm going to cut up a couple of these radishes. I've got just a few cherry tomatoes, not from our farm, but that I got from the supermarket. I find buying tomatoes in the wintertime, they tend to get anything larger than a cherry tomato. Just does not travel well, and it starts to get really mealy because they're refrigerated. So I stick to smaller tomatoes in the wintertime. At least they're easy to grow in a hothouse somewhere, and they keep their flavor much better than trying to do a larger tomato fresh in the wintertime. I'm just going to try to get as much color in here as I can. Nuts are another way to get protein in your diet, and just adding a small amount to your salad. So I've got a few of these little orange babies. These are Zima tomatoes. Really love, like a burst of flavor. Again, are the last of our tomatoes finished about a month ago. And even when we are pulling the plants out of the ground, we tend to harvest the last of the green tomatoes off the bushes and the plants, because those are great for people. Don't realize that you can actually eat green tomatoes, but they cook really well, so you can use them to make a salsa. You can still use them for cooking anything, chili, sauce, whatever else. I've got a wonderful post-frost farm carrot here. I just love. It's so hard for me to even buy. I love carrots, but it's so hard for me to buy them from the grocery store anymore. This is a really large carrot. There's another reason why I wanted to shred it instead of slicing it. All right, and I know you all are waiting patiently for me to get to show you how to peel this kohlrabi. So these are incredibly dense. Let me grab a serrated knife. It's kind of like cutting a butternut squash. So it's round and hard. I'm going to trim the ends first so that I have a flat end to stand it on. So flat on either end. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly shave down the sides with my knife. I can get this here for you guys. Not easy. I would not recommend trying to peel this with a peeler. The skin is just too thick. But with a good sharp knife, I'm just going down the side, around the curve of the kohlrabi. And then you can cut it into slices, you can cut it into cubes, you can julienne it. Again, I've done, if I have a bunch of these, at the end of the season, I will make a kohlrabi gratin, incredibly low carb if you're eating like that. Or you can do half potato, half kohlrabi. Really like the taste of potatoes, but it's really flexible. Anytime I have a recipe that calls for a turnip, if I don't have a turnip and I have a kohlrabi. So the skin is quite thick. I've gone around and shaved it all off. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do some slices. And again, I'm just whatever size you want that works for you. This is something I'm going to put in the salad. Did a cooking demo last week at the Whitney Center, which is a assisted living facility in Hamden, for those of you that you don't know it. And we did this there for them, and they just loved. And there was one woman in the audience who loved radishes. I started talking about radishes earlier, and while I'm just finishing chopping this, I want to mention that, again, we do grow a lot of different, you might see if you're shopping at the farmers markets, a lot of different radishes, and think, how many with different ways can I eat radishes? But surprisingly, the variety of size, here's my chopped up kohlrabi. If anybody is familiar with a Jerusalem artichoke, this is also similar to that. So we grow from the small traditional radish to one that is more like a daikon, can be quite large, about this big around. I have some in my downstairs fridge right now. That's called a green meat radish. It's green and white. It's very spicy. There are black radishes. You may also see another one from this area called a watermelon radish. Really, really beautiful. If you like doing quick pickling, when you slice open a watermelon radish, it's green on the outside and it has this amazingly beautiful pink color radiating throughout the middle because it's looking like a watermelon, and it's very mild in taste. It's just, I've almost never seen anything more beautiful. So yeah, finding different ways to cut them up, include them in your foods. As soon as you cook them, it mellows out the spiciness. So if you're getting something that's spicy and you're not sure what to do with it, I'd cut it up and add it to something. And then again, it's kind of like people who cook with celery and carrots. You're immediately getting sort of a root crop addition of density of flavor to whatever you're cooking. So that's kind of how I treat it. If you're used to using onions, garlic, celery, or carrots to make like a base of something, consider adding radishes in their place. All right. I've got most of my salad assembled here. So I've got all those things that I just chopped up in my bowl. I'm going to add about 1 cup of the grains, and then just toss this with some olive oil and vinegar. Now, another thing I wanted to mention about cooking your grains, whether you're cooking anything as simple as rice or something like this, spelt, kamut, wheat berries, anything like this, I like to cook in broth. So I didn't do that tonight. I added a little bit of miso paste, which is a concentrated paste, kind of like bouillon, except it's made from either chickpea or soybean, and it's a fermented product. So it's very good for your system. And you're not just getting a lot of added salt like you do with some broths. But this way, if you're eating this as a side dish tomorrow, right now I'm going to add it to my salad, but if you're eating it separately, it has its own really nice flavor other than just salt. You can also add other herbs to them once they're cooked. Experiment with some different things. I had a wonderfully healthy rosemary bush in a pot on my deck this summer, and I brought it in and it's still doing really well. And I just keep finding ways to use it. So I mentioned I put it in some salt last week. And And I also did some seasonal blends for some folks at work as a Christmas gift. All right, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of, I prefer apple cider vinegar because it doesn't upset my stomach, but whatever works for you. Okay, we're nearing the end here. You can see I'm just, this is a wide opening. I just put my fingers over it and let the stream come through, so I'm not getting too much on my salad. And that is, there's no measuring involved. That's how I dress my salad these days. I also took out a little bit of feta cheese, nice topping for a salad. Again, we've got cheese in the frittata, so I'm not sure if I want to do cheese in both of my dishes, but entirely up to you as to how you like how much fat you like in your diet. And I want to say I've been learning a lot more about healthy fats lately as I study macronutrients. Macronutrients are the building blocks of our body. So protein, carbohydrates, fats, and your body, your brain needs fat to function properly. And those can be healthy things. You don't want polyunsaturated fats and triglycerides, but avocado, certain foods have natural amounts of fats in them. Nuts, legumes are all healthy fats for your brain and body to function, just in smaller amounts. So you can do fats in smaller quantities and add flavor, because fat often adds flavor to our food, right? With different herbs. Try experimenting with different herbs. I love going into the grocery store and they have those little bundles for about $1 a piece. It doesn't take much. All right, so here's my salad. Again, I've got some bread on the side if you need something a little bit hearty. What was the other thing I was thinking about? Or since you're doing eggs, if you wanted to do like some home fries or baked potato on the side, that's a great accompaniment for this dish too. I'm gonna check on the frittata in the oven. I won't make you guys stick around till the end, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what it's looking like. All right, so this is great. This is doing well. It needs about 13 more minutes. It's pretty much set at this point, but I just wanted to give you a sense what that's looking like. Take those two things out, and now I've made a complete meal out of all of these wonderful seasonal vegetables, eggs from the farm or from my backyard in this case. So I had chard, I had escarole, I had arugula, we had kohlrabi, carrot, and radishes. All things that a lot of things that you might not eat individually, but assembled together, you can get quite a nice meal out of them. So this is our last demo for the season. Again, I want to thank you all. Wish you all well, and hopefully we'll see some of you out at the farm in the springtime. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your meal, and happy holidays.